Attorney Madsen, you're dialed in, right?
Yes, I can hear everybody.
Where are you tonight?
I'm in my office.
Well, that's sad.
It is what it is.
Okay.
Attorney Madsen, can Roger participate in the discussion but just not vote since we have 5 members, or should he not participate at all?
Roger's an alternate.
And Ryan is here as well as an alternate for today.
Right, let me look at let me just pull up the code really quick.
Okay, thanks.
Hey, Ryan, greetings. You're muted.
Good evening. Sorry about that.
Where do you live? What part of town?
Up in Big Springs on Alpine.
So you've seen a few traffic cones today.
Yeah, we had to end up going a long way around coming home, but it is what it is.
That means we have to appoint a new.
So Ryan, so what I was saying is Debbie Davenport has resigned from the BZA, and Ryan here is an alternate, and so we're gonna put before the Board of Trustees, moving Ryan into the regular board position. And he agreed. And I think he still agrees.
Okay. So we have a quorum we can call to order.
Miranda, I'm curious, are there bylaws for the BZA?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Right, that's about them voting, right? Not, where I'm wondering if they can participate in the discussion.
Oh, wait, I'm looking, see a different section.
Before you call the order, Mark, I think it'd be good to know if Roger and Ryan can participate.
And we're
And are
checking.
you dialed in twice?
Tom is online.
Okay.
So I would say that are there 2 alternates or 3 alternates?
There's 2 alternates present tonight, and we don't need them as voting members because we have enough voting. We have 5 voting members. I think it's just, can they participate in the discussion but not vote?
So I would say that the section 16-234 is really silent on that question. So I think the best course of action would be to ask the applicant if the applicant has any objections to the alternates participating in the discussion.
Okay, so Mark, let's ask the applicants when we get there.
Okay. If, yeah. Ready in a minute. This is my second meeting today. Something I thought I had in here. And
Hey, Jesse.
Hi, guys.
Hi there.
Good to see you, Tom. I'd love to catch up soon.
Well, we'll try and be in the same state someday.
Okay, I look forward to it.
Okay.
Has the meeting been called to order yet, or can we make small talk?
No, we're just going through rules.
We're going to order in a minute.
All right. Hi,
right.
Attorney Madsen and Miranda, buddy.
So Miranda, I call it to order.
Yes, you'll call me, sir.
Okay. BCA Boulder, Nederland Board of Zoning Adjustments has been called to order. Miranda, please do the roll.
Yep. Chair Mole,
Here.
Member Seepick,
Here.
Member Bliss,
Here.
Member McLevain,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Mahold.
Here.
And please note for the record that alternate Cornell and alternate Villalon are currently present.
Public comment on anything that's not agenda item? Non-agenda. Okay. So the first
Question, are we're meeting a second time this month and then after that in January, yes?
Unless another variance comes through, that is currently the plan.
So the
Okay.
next is the 20th?
Next meeting is Monday, November 21st for 2 additional variance hearings. And then if you approve anything tonight, the resolution will come back before this board that day.
Okay. So in other business, maybe we'll have to appoint another vice chair.
Yeah, please talk into your microphone. And then I think what we would want to do, Chair Mull, is save that for the 21st since it's not currently an action item and we have not done the announcement of Member Davenport's resignation.
I might not be here on the 21st.
Okay, well then I think we would identify someone to chair the meeting.
All right.
Now, I wouldn't necessarily do the vice chair today just because it's not on the agenda.
Okay. All right, so I have something to read here before we start our first item. It's a script for me to read, and I'm going to read it. It's the Board of Zoning Adjustment script for quasi-judicial hearing. Here this evening for a public hearing on a variance of the Town Zoning Code pursuant to Article 9 of Chapter 16 of the Nederland Municipal Code. Before we begin with the public hearing, I would like to provide an outline of the process for this public hearing so that everyone knows what to expect. First, the hearing will start with staff presenting the report on this variance. The board will have an opportunity to ask clarifying questions of staff after the presentation. Second, the applicant will then present on the application and the board will be able to ask the applicant clarifying questions. Third, we will then allow for public comment. Fourth, the applicant may be permitted to respond to the public comment. And fifth, the board will then discuss and deliberate the application. Now, Miranda, am I correct in saying that we have to close public comment before then the board discusses?
Correct.
Okay. The public hearing is now open for the purpose of considering the variance application related to the height limitation on a fence. Will Miranda Fisher please introduce the item?
Yes, so tonight before you, there is a variance request for a fence and on this property that's located at 520 and 522 West 4th, there are 2 fences in question here. So I'm going to talk about both of them separately. First is the west fence. So currently the fence is constructed at 6 feet. They are interested in going up to 7 feet. Correction in the aim. Some of the posts that are currently there, if you drove by, were at 8 feet. The applicants did recently shave them down to 7 feet, and there are some photos that we can show you tonight, but the point of that was to give you some reference of what the additional foot would look like. If the variance is denied, the fence will continue to be at 6 feet, but the request of the applicant is to go to 7 for that additional privacy. The other piece is the east fence. The east fence is between Little Bear Village and Knotted Root. Due to a grade difference, it is taller on the Knotted Root side than it is on the Little Bear Village side. It's approximately 89 inches on the the Knotted Root side, and it's 65 inches from grade on the Little Bear Village side. Couple points of clarification. When constructing that fence, they were given guidance from town staff that they could go to 7 feet because the 2018 International Building Code states that you can build to 7 feet without a permit. Town code, however, says that you must go to only 6 feet and anything else would be a variance. So there was so they operated off of that original feedback, and there is a copy of an email in their packet that explains that. This issue was brought forward by Knotted Root, who had expressed concerns that this was in fact above 6 feet on their side, and they are making claims that their side is the original grade. We have noted that town staff, we don't have documentation of the original grade, and we do recognize that there have been modifications on both sides. Knotted Root developed a patio, and Little Bear Village developed a drainage plan that led to an increase in grade to comply with the plan that's in your packet, and also that was a part of their plan unit development. So really the question before the Board of Zoning Adjustment is, do you want Little Bear Village to decrease their fence height so that it is 6 feet on the Knotted Root side, which of course would make it even shorter on the Little Bear Village side? As town staff and the fire department, that we do not have concerns, and so we do feel that it is appropriate to allow both of these variances, and we have provided an analysis in the packet. Are there any questions?
One question, Miranda, is the brewery considered a commercial operation or a retail operation, or both?
I mean, it is a commercial operation located in a neighborhood commercial.
Okay. And then, yeah, I think the rest, everything in the packet was pretty clear, and I think you laid the case out well.
Question, I believe this is for Attorney Madsen. I saw that under criteria B, it says not applicable. I was wondering why criteria B does not apply here.
Well, I think that's a question for Miranda. Because she was the one who completed the criteria. I'll let Miranda explain why she put it not applicable, and then if you have other questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Yeah, so under B, it's that because of such physical circumstances or conditions, the property cannot reasonably be developed in conformity with the provisions of this chapter. The reason I did that is these lots are already developed. Obviously, fences are just supplemental to the lot development, so it's not like we're looking at setbacks or anything of that sort. They already built their duplexes. These are just additional assets features that they want to add. Fences are not a requirement of this development.
I did not attend well, this is not a question. I guess this is more of a comment. Should I hold that?
Go ahead. It would be my recommendation. What's on your mind?
So I did not attend the May 18th meeting, but I read the minutes. There was a fence variance applied for in that, and criteria B was applied in that case.
I'll have to go back and look. I didn't prepare that agenda packet, and so I'll have to pull it up. For me, that specific property had a variety of other variances associated with it, and subsequently was withdrawn, and also impacted because it was an intersection, which has a lot more stipulations than the situation here.
Thank you.
Talking about the May,
Yes.
about the property on 3rd Street or whatever it is?
Yeah, and from the minutes, it says the board did not find that the property was able to to be developed in conformity with the zoning code in the fence discussion. The meeting minutes from May 18th said that the board did consider criteria B and found that the property was unable, they did not find that the property was unable to be developed in conformity with the zoning code as part of the reasoning for not allowing the variance.
Okay.
And just for clarification too, I pulled up the AIM, the required or the allowed height in medium density residential for that fence height was 3 feet. And they were requesting a 6-foot height limit for their fence.
I recall that.
Yeah, just to be clear, my question is whether or not criteria B should be applied here.
Well, I believe it should be at least addressed. And then when we address it, we'll see how much it applies.
Miranda, you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, if that's a desire of the board, we can absolutely discuss it further. I do have that AIM open as well, and it does look like at the time, the staff also though felt that that criteria was met, and then it was ultimately the BZA who felt that that was not the case. So if there's a desire to discuss, of course, I fully support that.
I'm also looking at the AIM as well, and one of the things that I see, the criteria doesn't really separate the different variance requests. And it appears to me that at least in the AIM, that the discussion of B relates to the other request for a variance related to setbacks. And not specifically the fence.
Miranda, is this the time when I can ask the applicant if Roger can ask questions? And
Yeah, so I think you would allow, my recommendation is to allow the applicants to do their presentation. Or I guess if you want, I see what you're saying.
Roger might want to talk.
Yes, you should ask the applicants if they consent to Roger and Ryan participating. Which they are saying yes to.
Okay.
I actually feel, I mean, I didn't speak before, but I feel like I should not participate. You guys we've asked the questions, and I just came to meet the people, and in case someone didn't show up, I was needed as an alternate. So I feel that it just complicates things having a sick person or a person that's actually part of the group interjecting things. You certainly have it.
I would just like to,
So I choose not to speak. I do not want to participate.
Okay.
Just here as a public witness.
Okay.
Chair Mull, do you want to see if the other alternate feels similarly, or if Ryan wants to participate?
I think I agree with this being my first meeting I'm attending. I'd like to sit back and listen.
Okay. All right. Amanda, is that it from the town?
That is it from the town.
So the town recommends a variance
Correct,
or 2 variances.
correct.
Okay. Then, any more questions from the Board of Zoning Adjustments for the town? The only clarifying questions on what was presented by the town? Any questions? No questions? Is the applicant or his or her representative present? Please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record. Ask the applicant, oh, I'm supposed to ask the applicant, if you have an attorney or whether the attorney is present at the hearing.
Alan Bullion and Dennis Bullion. We do not have an attorney.
Okay. So you guys represent what's called the Little Bear Village, which is basically those townhomes at they're those townhomes right at the corner there, is that right?
Street from the fire station.
Okay. Okay. Let's see. Okay, you can do your presentation, and if that can include anything, let's see, what is this? To add to the staff report or clarify with the staff report. Okay.
Just want to thank everyone for their time tonight. Yep, sorry about that. In consideration are 2 variance requests. So our request is, we're requesting a variance for our east and west fences. Our west fence, I think Miranda has up, she'll scroll to the picture. This is to give you an idea. This was before we cut the height down. For additional privacy for residents of Little Bear Village, we're requesting a height of 7 feet due to the elevated grade of Highway 119 in relation to the townhomes. The current fence height, and you'll see in the picture where the rails are going horizontal, that is 6 feet. The height here, the post height is actually 8 feet. Our contractors were behind on our job. They were in a hurry and they left to go do another job. And so instead of cutting them down twice, we left them at 8. So we did go back this morning because the Papages did raise good questions and we realized it was confusing the height that stood there. So we did go back, cut several posts down to 7 feet to give a more accurate picture of the height that it would be at 7 feet. And we'll be showing those pictures at the end of our presentation. But on this picture, as you'll oh, wait, if you could go back to the previous picture. Thank you. So as you can see, the traffic is directly above the horizontal rail fence. And if you would cut that post in half, that is approximately where 7 feet are. We wanted to screen out the road traffic, but not block the view. So that is the intent of the variance. And I'm sorry, Miranda, you could go ahead to the other pictures that we, so it's good to have the comparison. Oh, actually, you had the other pictures. Yeah. Yes. Mhm. Okay. Getting used to this technology. Yes. So as you can see, there's a gray truck in the picture. You see the road, but you see the fence posts do just come to the top of the gray truck. And then the next picture. And you can see the difference. There's an 8-foot and a 7-foot height right next to it. Next picture, please.
You see from the road.
Too late, Dennis.
I know. I thought that's what I did.
Go ahead from the road. What? That's okay.
Well, you see from the road, that section of fence that's not there, that extra foot really gives a lot of privacy to that back patio slider, the whole inside of the house. And so with the 7-foot, which we thought we already were good to go with. And so you can see why a 7-foot would make a difference for the privacy.
And this picture shows as you are coming around the curve, the fence post height, and then the 8-foot post height.
Okay, yeah, on that picture right there, we've had some public comment about the visual corridor, the obstruction. And that's pictures taken from the intersection of Third and Peak to Peak, looking over across the fence. And that vehicle is above the fence, and the road base is above the fence. I mean, so there's no visual that has been brought up as being impaired.
Next picture, please. And then here's a better view of Third Street. As the vehicle goes around, you see the grade, and there's an 8-foot fence close to the corner, and then the rest are below that. Next slide, please.
So we can move on to the east fence, right?
There's this last slide, and this is one taken, we had to take a picture of the,
Oh, yeah, the county assessor's website shows the, property lines and stuff. And from the center line of intersection to where those two cars that were in that photo is about right where they start to go up that curve. And that's a 285-foot distance, which is a 250-foot distance, which a lot of CDOT likes to use for stopping at intersections. If a car pulls out, the guy can see it. They like to go with a 250-foot requirement. That certainly is enough space for the CDOT. And that's a straight line too. It's not parallel on the curve.
and it does say, if you were to zoom in, we couldn't get a good shot, but the feet are right up in the top left.
Scales over there.
Right, that it says 285.06 feet. Okay, and then we can go back to the normal presentation. Thank you, Miranda.
Oh, that wasn't the number.
Well, that was an add-on. So the east fence between Little Bear, and that concludes our presentation on the west fence. We'll go on to the east fence between Little Bear Village and Knotted Root Brewery. We were told by town staff, Cynthia Baki in particular, the deputy zoning administrator, that fences could go to 7 feet. We took our advice from the town and we're following the code we were given. Our plan was to build a 7-foot metal privacy fence, 5.5 feet with the vertical application that you see in these pictures. And then we wanted to do, well, I wanted to do a 1.5-foot fence of like a transom, more or less, horizontal transom on top of the vertical metal. So that was how we came to be at a 5'5" point that it is now. This is a screenshot of the email that was sent from Cynthia to us. And then the next page we could go to, Miranda, shows the international code. That was the attachment. And I've highlighted the part where it says fences are 7 feet. Our neighbor to the south, Kel Darnell, owner of Smurf Village, was also building a 7-foot fence, and her contractor, Tom, also told us that town staff, Cynthia, had told him 7 feet was the height he could go to between a commercial business and residential property. And here's a copy of her letter that she wrote for our presentation. To whom it may concern, I'm the owner of the 6 houses at 550 West 3rd Street, aka Smurf Village. My property lies south of Knotted Root Brewery, and I share a property line with them. Last year, we installed a new fence to screen our houses from the brewery. My contractor, Tom Rieschlager, was told by town staff that we could construct up to a 7-foot fence without a permit for the privacy of our residents. Our fence is 7 feet as per town approval. My property also shares a lot line with Little Bear Village. I support the owners of Little Bear Village in their efforts to obtain a fence variance to provide a standard 6-foot privacy fence as measured from their side, our side, between the commercial brewery business, Knotted Root Brewery, and the residential townhomes of Little Bear Village. This fence will enable the residents of Little Bear Village to enjoy the basic privacy and security that all families should be entitled to. Since the brewery now has an outdoor patio on the Little Bear Village side, I think the fence is even more necessary here. Plus, the fence itself is very nice, and I feel it enhances the look of both the brewery and the Little Bear properties. And she concludes sincerely, Hell Darnell. In order to understand the fence situation that we're in, it's necessary to understand the drainage plan for our property. During construction, we received complaints from the brewery of water draining from our property onto theirs, and historically, it did. The water would shut off the highway from west to east and would continue across our property and onto Knotted Root Brewery, and that was the historical watershed. In order to not have any issues with the brewery, our drainage plan was revised. The flow of water was re-engineered to flow back westerly towards the highway to maintain all runoff on our own property, Little Bear Village, as preferred by the town and in compliance with town drainage codes, which they like you to keep your water on your property. This plan was preferred by the town and the town engineer approved it. And in the first picture, I gave a snapshot. We drove over there during a hard rain to see, how this was working out. It's very muddy. It wasn't, finished, but you can clearly see the grade now catches the water on our side, and it does slope to the right, away to the west. The second picture shows just how involved this complete reshaping of the property was. There's a berm off the highway. There's a retaining wall all the way around. There is an emergency catch basin, which is, I believe, 2 feet by 10 feet, correct?
It's 4 feet.
4 feet by 10. Okay. And the next picture, I believe, shows a more close-up picture of that around the back of the property. And there is the recycled concrete over that portion. And that is a detention pond on the west side. And then continuing on, that picture that Miranda has up now shows the berm along the highway. Typically this, the highway always shed onto our property. This will now prevent that. There is a new grade to 3rd Street and a new driveway to Smurf Village now offload. This also is an emergency overflow. Not sure if that's okay. Okay. And this is an emergency overflow as well over to 3rd Street. So it's quite the involved project. It was not inexpensive, but it was the better plan for the town, for us, and also for Knotted Root. Then the last picture that Miranda will show is there's a swale, a drainage swale between the 2 duplexes that channels the water to the west side, the side that I just showed you. So this is after a rain. You can see the concrete in the foreground, and it is draining away to the west side of our property. As clearly stated in the drainage memo, which I'll show next, from Rocky Ridge Civil Engineering, the posts that form part of the retaining wall are exactly that. They are in the retaining wall design. The fence sits on top of the retaining wall, and the retaining wall is not part of the fence. The fence is a fence. The fence height, we believe, should be measured from Little Bear Village's finished grade, which was required by the drainage plan. I just want to highlight at this time in the PUD, we had 2 components that went beyond code. One was the height. Building code was 35 feet, and we were held to 24 feet.
We agreed to that. Yeah, we agreed to this height limitation for the neighborhood, right?
And then the other component of the PUD was the drainage plan. So those requirements, I'm told by Miranda quite a few times, take precedence over the code. The next thing that she'll bring up is the technical memo from Rocky Ridge Civil Engineering. The purpose of this memo is to document the concrete retaining wall that is installed east of the new buildings, the duplexes. As you can see, the back of this, our fence, which is shown in this picture, is a metal fence similar to those seen on 3rd Street and on 2nd Street by Jeff Roos Properties. So in keeping with what you see in Nederland. The precast concrete sections called bin blocks are 2 by 2 by 6 in size. They were brought in from Boulder Ready Mix. They weigh approximately 3,000 pounds apiece. As the picture shows below, they are keyed into each other with a concrete extrusion on the side of each and an indentation of the same size on the other. On the previous page, there's shown a 5'5" high fence from the site's finished grade. The wood posts in concrete bases were recommended to be installed 4 feet deep on the cast side for stability. With the hydraulic type C soils, mostly clay-like soil, there will be some surcharging forces against any retaining wall that is built, considering the weight of the concrete blocks that they are keyed together and the added support from the posts. Again, they're part of the retaining wall. It is not feasible for surcharging to have any potential movement of the wall in this area with a maximum depth of soil against the walls of 2 feet. The length of the bin blocks is 112 feet, which means there is 18 blocks tied together, amassing a total of 27 tons of vertical force downward to the earth. The northernmost 30 feet of the wall is composed of large boulders, as seen in the picture on the next page. The height of the dirt in this area ranges from 9 inches to 15 inches, which would not create sufficient horizontal movement for boulders of this size.
That was taken from the engineer's requirement. When he designed the wall, that was his criteria. That's why that's all full of the blocking and the keyway between the blocks and stuff. That's why that's what that's from when we applied for the permit. That's what we submitted for permit, this design. And so that's where that is.
The bin blocks were recommended to us for their strength and their utility. They can be driven on, and there's not a problem for the residents to drive over the driveway and the retaining wall. And then the final picture from the memo is the one Miranda has up, and it just shows the rest of the slope down to the driveway and down to coming out on 4th Street. Then the next page, we did want to demonstrate, although there's no documentation, knotted root or we had written, we do have photos prior to the start of our project and the start of their patio. They had trenched, for some reason, their dirt was put on our property, but if you look at the 2 circled sections of the photo, specifically the one on the right, and you go horizontally across to knotted root, you can see there is a clear differential between the grades, and this was historically 12 to 18 inches. Also on the left side where I've highlighted, you can see that that section is lower than the section that's highlighted to the right.
That was lowered for their patio construction. They get the slope from the building to their new ditch, cobble line ditch that they built. So they lowered that grade there.
The next picture shows the trenching. Again, you can see the side on knotted root, which does not appear to be nearly as tall as the left side of the trench. I'll continue on. We were building our 7-foot fence based on advice from town staff. The current height of our fence is 5 feet 4 inches, and it provides the bare minimum of privacy. These 2 pictures that Miranda has up are taken from an event that was hosted at Knotted Root during the middle of September. They had tents out, and it was very successful. And just want to state, we're pro-business. We've always been supportive of the brewery and wish them all the success in the world. This has nothing to do with being next to a business. They draw large crowds. They had great live music our tenants know they live next to a site that will have live events from time to time and that it's a brewery. As these pictures show, you can see the tops of tents, but you cannot see any people from their driveway or their front doors. And the second picture is just what the event looked like from a upstairs window. Okay, next page. And then the last picture again was of this event. You can see the vehicles to the right along our side of the fence. The fence barely comes to the top of the SUV, I always get those mixed up, that is parked in the back that belongs to one of the tenants. An additional complaint from the brewery was that our fence would cast shade onto their patio, and we disagree with that. Our buildings are the ones casting the shadow, and you can see the shape of the gable in the shadow. On the ground, you see two people enjoying the outdoors. Yeah, the shade. Some people prefer that, and then there's another couple sitting in the sun. Okay, I think we'll go to my summary next. We were informed by town staff that we could go to 7 feet with our fence, and that specifically was the deputy zoning administrator. We took that instruction in good faith, and that was what we constructed our fence with. And again, we were paused at 5'5" because my husband and I could not agree actually on the rest of the 1.5 feet. And at that point, as when Cynthia came over and measured due to the complaint from knotted root. But I'll pick up with my second bullet. Due to the revision of our drainage plan due to complaints from the brewery, the drainage plan was re-engineered. A retaining wall was built as part of the plan, and the flow of runoff and rainwater was reversed, which was quite the accomplishment. There was always a 12-inch to 18-inch historical difference in grade between the two properties, as noted in the pictures. After the first vertical part of the fence was built, the brewery complained about the height, and Cynthia came out to measure. She told us that the town lawyer had told her she could no longer tell people that the fence height is 7 feet. It's a little difficult because what's been said, you cannot unsay, and we had built our fence to 5.4 at that point. She measured the height as 7 feet 4 inches from the brewery side and 5 feet 4 inches from our side, which is just barely over, is 4 inches over the height that we were given by Cynthia. The next bullet, a privacy fence, is just that. It provides privacy. The brewery patrons are negligibly impacted by the current 5'4" height of the fence. Patrons spend a little while, they have a beer and they leave, but the residents of Little Bear Village live there. If the fence were lowered, it would be a much greater invasion of privacy for the residents of the duplexes. We don't believe it provides such an impact to the brewery. They've mentioned about their view. Their view is really not to the west. If the fence is lowered, they just get more of a, they see in the front door. Do they really need to do that? They would see when they come and when they go. They would see who's home and who's not. They would see who has children and who doesn't, which is a privacy issue, but also a security issue, we believe. Due to the requirements of the drainage plan, we are requesting that the board grant a variance to this section of code, although there could be a few. I mean, it holds you to a height of 6 feet. This is the code that Miranda referenced. The height of the fence shall be measured from grade to the top of the highest point of the fence. Grade shall be determined on that portion of the property on which each portion of the fence is to be constructed or erected, as the grade exists on the date of the ordinance codified, which was 2019, or as such grade exists on the date a permit for construction is applied for, whichever grade is lower. We contend that the retaining wall was required in the drainage plan. It's not part of the fence, but it is part of the drainage plan. And that the height of our fence should be measured from our property's finished grade. We should not be penalized for having to regrade our lot and held to the historic grade. We further request that the allowed fence height as measured from our side be a standard 6-foot privacy fence, or at minimum be left at the height it is currently at, which is 5 feet 4 inches, and provides the bare minimum of privacy to the people that live in Little Bear Village. I do believe I just wanted to mention that we do have several letters of support. I think it was 11 or 12 at the last count. I won't go through those. They're in your packet. Dennis, did you have any? Okay.
So, yeah, these letters of support, they're kind of all over the place on my email. I had trouble with email. CenturyLink crashed my email.
So Chair Mull, they're in the packet, and then anything that came in after I released the packet last night, I emailed to you directly.
Yeah,
The majority, I believe all but one are in the packet.
Yeah, they're toward the bottom of the whole thing.
let
Yes.
me see if I can find them. I saw a bunch, the packet from a few days ago. I haven't had a chance to look at most.
Yeah, I've re-uploaded as we got them, but there was one that came through this morning,
Okay.
which I forwarded to the board directly.
How do I get out of this? Okay.
Chair Mull, did you want to go to questions, or did you want us to review the letters of support?
I just wanted to do a quick view. And looks like we got a letter from,
So there's 11 I think it's 11 in the letters of support attachment, and then you receive 4 additional letters.
you guys got good Wi-Fi here.
What?
You guys got good Wi-Fi here.
Hey, thanks.
This is so much better than my house.
Might have to come here more often.
Careful what you wish for.
Dennis, they can't hear you
If you
online.
can do it quickly, that's fine.
I can review
You're
the,
probably quicker than
the
my.
4
computer.
letters that were against it is 2 residences on Third Street about the intersection danger hazard.
Yeah, I kinda
And then
flipped through those.
2 letters from the brewery, naturally. The brewery gave us 2 letters, 1 from each of the owners. And those were the 2. Mhm. And then we got all the support letters, the 14, how many?
No,
11 support letters.
So I guess if we need to review our support letters, we can do that. It's up to you.
No, I don't want to do that.
Just want to remind, I mean, I guess I don't know, Chair Mull, I don't know how the rest of the board feels.
Yeah, if everyone else is okay with not.
If you want those read to you, I mean, a lot of them are similar structure, and then
Just who they're
people signed
from.
off.
How about who they're from, real quick?
Sure, I know those.
One of them is from Tom Riebschlager, who I believe is part of your construction team.
Not ours. He is part of Cal Darnell's, the Smurf Village, and he was the one who told us, you can go to
He's
7.
built the 7-foot fence for
Right.
this our village.
Yes, and then there were one from Holly Phillips, owner of Hair by Holly in town, one from Alex Phillips, right, with Friendly Builders in town, one from Cal Darnell, as we mentioned, one from Tammy Blumenthal, who resides at 522 Little Bear Village, 2 from Robert and Genoveva Adams that live at 520 Unit 1 Little Bear Village, 2 letters from Brooke Pritt and Mike Pritt. They live in 522 Unit 2 at Little Bear Village. I'm forgetting some.
Sorry.
There was one from Jesse Severs as well.
Yes, thank you, Jesse Severs, and also his wife, Angie Severs, which I appreciate Jesse being here. He was on the call in case there were any questions regarding the drainage and the grading, because he did do that. Angie's letter references also the engineering plans that they were required to conform with.
Members of the board, anyone have questions of the applicant?
No, I think they presented, a good case for both sides of the fence. I agree with their rationale. The pictures I found extremely helpful, and the letters of support are pretty convincing to me.
I have one question. In the packet, there's a picture of someone measuring a post.
That was in Miranda's, yes.
Um,
That was Cynthia.
okay. And what, is that your post?
That was taken from the brewery side. That was on the day that she came out in response to Knotted Root's complaint. And that was the first we heard about it. She was out taking pictures and we said, oh, she said, yeah, the fence from this side measures 7'4". So she was taking measurements, told us she could no longer say 7 feet was the height that we could go to. And our fence on our side was 5 feet, 4 inches.
But the fence she's measuring, or the post that she's measuring, that's your post, right?
It is our post. And as we stated in our presentation, our belief is that the posts are part of the retaining wall. They're referenced in the memo. They're used for, it's more technical, Dennis can.
Well, they're measuring from the top of the fence down, going past the finished grade of Little Bear Village, and then going down to the bottom of the wall with the measurement. And they are contending that the code says the original grade, what the original grade is, where it's got to go from. And it gets a little sticky. I'm not going to go to my neighbor's property and measure the height of my fence. I was going to measure from my property, my fence. And so the grade did change as per the PUD requirements of the drainage plan and stuff. And so we have that.
No, I totally understand. It's more nuanced to this. I just want to clarify. That's your property there. That's your fence.
Yeah,
It's-
the wire fence is the bruise fence.
Right.
Right.
And then the concrete piece you see, but especially the picture to the left, is that concrete bin block.
Thank you.
So you finished?
Yes.
The fence is is entirely on your property.
Entirely, right.
So if you go like 3 inches to the other side of the fence, you're still on your property.
Yes, right.
So the fence is all on your property and it should maybe be measured by the height of your property.
That's kind of the way we looked at it.
Okay.
To be clear, you are looking to keep the height of the fence as is,
As
correct?
is, right.
We are not looking to raise the height of that fence to,
No,
It
it,
wouldn't be our first choice. We could live with that. Our first choice was to give their tenants 6 feet, which would be 4 by 4 to 6 feet, whatever that is, a few more inches. If not, we can live with the height as it is.
So it's 5'4". So the east fence is 5'4", 5 feet 4 inches.
Correct.
And you would like to have another 8 inches. That would make it 6 feet.
Right, but
right.
at this point,
typical- if
But-
you measure the fences on the west property are measured from the grade to the top 6 foot. And that's what the code states these days. Now, that's been clarified.
And that but you want to go up another foot to 7 on the west
On
side.
the west, right.
yes, correct.
That was, we were building that 7, and when we found out that, we told you wrong. And so then it's, if you want 7, you got to get a variance.
Right.
That's
And we-
how that came up.
We had not built the west fence yet next to the highway. So that was why Miranda said you can only build this to 6 feet and you have to go for a variance for the 7-foot fence.
I think we need to be very clear as far as, are we aiming at specifically keeping the height of the fence? Or are we looking to raise the fence?
We can keep it.
Okay, thank you.
But wait a minute, you're asking for a variance to
Well,
increase it.
So the reason
keep-
this, maybe I can clarify, the reason that this is before you is the question, the code isn't necessarily very clear. On the knotted root side, you are above 6 feet.
Right.
So in essence, yes, this fence is already constructed, but we feel it's important should this be approved, that it is documented that Little Bear Village received approval to be above 6 feet, even if their fence stays as built, that is documented that they're technically above 6 feet on the knotted root side of the fence.
Just to give an example, while we struggle with this, the way you're struggling with this, we were like, well, what if the fence was being built on a slope? Do you go from the person uphill? They'd have like a 3-foot tall fence on their side, and on the other side, it would be 6 feet tall. So we had problem, when we went back and read the municipal code, we were like, well, it doesn't really make sense because there are other situations where the grades will be different. Ours right now is, and a slope would be another example, so.
Seems rational to me. It was a good compromise.
I have a couple of questions. I noticed your picture of, you took from the intersection of Third Street. Was that taken at what, I guess, eye level?
Yes.
That is sitting in your vehicle, taking that picture.
Oh.
The visuals you would get when you pull up to the stop sign and look to the right, up north, up peak to peak.
Okay.
That's looking out of your.
Right, but that's a zoom. If you go to that other picture, Miranda, the one that shows the entire way out to Third Street, it might be behind this one. I mean, the next one after it.
My question is if it was taken from eye height, I mean, the difference isn't going to be that dramatic, but at eye height, that's going to be taller than you would be if you were sitting in, say, a car.
That's sitting in the car, that picture right there.
Oh, okay.
If you stood out of your car, you'd probably get a higher.
Okay. I think my question is to go to the liability of the town. I mean, if we approve the height of the fence to go a little bit higher and somebody has a car accident and they cite the fence, but the town approved it, does that bring liability upon the town?
That would be my main concern as well. And also, and I realize that the 250 feet is the CDOT recommended stopping distance, but I think that's in an ideal and dry and straight world. My concern is exactly the same. I took a drive by there the other day and looking across, it did seem, and I have a 4Runner, it's a taller vehicle. It did seem that there was, if the fence was any taller, and if I was in a vehicle that was any shorter, it could have been an impediment to line of sight. My concern would be in an icy condition, it's in a turn, somebody may not have traction to pull out of the intersection as quickly as somebody is coming down and doesn't have ability to slow down. So my concern would also be the town liability in that situation.
I've got a tall truck and I was able to see fine, but not everybody drives the same vehicle I do, so.
And also, those posts were not lowered until about 10:30 this morning.
Okay.
When did you go by there to check it out?
I took a look by a couple of days ago, and
Okay.
that was going not by necessarily the height of the post, but actually the height of the existing fence, which was basically right at road level from my perspective. Meaning that if it was any taller, it could have been a problem.
At the bottom of the road level, like it is like in that picture right there, right? At the base of the road.
At the intersection, I was on West Third as I was hanging right onto Peak to Peak Highway. And again, I understand, but my concern would be, motorcycles going very fast in that corner.
But that vehicle is, you can't miss it. That vehicle is not hidden by anything. That post right there.
For those of you online, Dennis is pointing. They can't hear you online.
Oh, but you heard me though, right?
I heard.
Yeah, we didn't.
You have one board member online though, so.
And so that's what I mean, if.
You may want to repeat yourself for
Okay.
Tom, who's online.
Yeah, as those pictures show, that the vehicle is not hidden at all by the fence. And another foot of fence, the vehicle would not be hidden. And so if anybody gets in a crash there, they can't say, the fence hid my view, because it doesn't. They can say whatever they want, I guess. But,
Right.
and so they come out and then they would have, then the officers involved in the crash report would say, I don't know how you can say that hid your view. The fence is below the road.
And what's the speed limit in here,
I
35?
would, I wouldn't build a fence that would block somebody and turn this into a dangerous situation.
I agree.
Speed limit's 35.
Leave that. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to sell a, you know.
I completely understand. I
Yeah.
completely understand. You've delivered a very good presentation, but
Yeah.
my personal opinion is, hope for the best, plan for the worst. And worst case scenario, that would be my concern. And I'm glad that Dave also voiced the same concern. And there's also been letters from town residents of the same concern. So there are people that are concerned about it.
Right, and that was what prompted, to his credit, Scott's letter. That was what prompted us to go, oh, we got to correct that because the visual that it's giving now is 8 feet. It was not cut to 7 feet. And that was the reason for those additional photos.
And I guess the question I heard earlier was a issue of town liability. Does that hold water, Jennifer? I mean, is there any implied liability for the town here?
I think that that's really a difficult question to answer, and I would say it's pretty speculative. One of the things that I always go to in terms of whether the town has liability is the first thing is that the town has immunity generally.
Yeah.
And so this isn't something that is waived under the Governmental Immunity Act. And then the next thing, just even if immunity was waived, there's a question of, whether this fence and the sight line, whether it's unreasonable related to certain design standards. I don't know that that's true. I don't know that we have any evidence of that. So I mean, I can't say that there is a significant liability risk here.
Yeah, that's kind of the way I'm looking at it. It's a 35-mile-an-hour zone. If there's always going to be somebody coming around too fast when it's icy. We live across the street, so we've seen plenty of the crashes. But I don't see that a sight line is going to change too much here from my point of view. I've driven it too.
I think I had another question regarding the east fence, closer to the brewery. That was, first of all, I can totally sympathize with your water problems on the lot. I drive by it every day and I watch the construction of the project and I watched it fill up with water. I got to say, I really felt sorry for you because all the water problems you had there, but obviously you've gotten it solved. And I do understand. I can also sympathize with the privacy aspect of your tenants who live there. And I do look at picture on page 29, or is it 20, or excuse me, 31. It shows the end of the fence where basically the end of their, I guess, outdoor area. And it shows several posts there. And I went by this morning and I saw that the fence is actually extended beyond that. At the entire property line. Okay.
Yeah, it goes up to the corner of the property right there.
Okay. And did you have any discussion with the brewery before you built the fence? Did you talk about what you were planning to build?
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
I went to get both Chris's to come and look at their fence
Okay.
that they built. The one that was in that fence right there. And about a third of it is on our property. And we brought it up to their attention and I said, look, Chris, I don't know what happened. I don't know. I said, it doesn't really matter. But we're going to leave it. I'm not going to ask you to move it or anything. I'll just work around it. So if you can look down our fence line, you can see where it kicks out because we allowed his fence to remain there. And said, because when I'm building my fence, I'm going to run my line, then I'll go around it.
Oh, I see.
And he goes, that's very wonderful of you. I'll put in a good word for you.
Jid will also want to add to that. There was when the town went and just gave them a courtesy look at, here's the new drainage plan. There was that meeting, we were not there, that was between the town engineer. Miranda, did you go? Cynthia? Okay, so, so they knew the whole new drainage plan. There was a time after that, maybe a week or two, they said they had some questions. I had a double funeral for two of my siblings in California. I was preparing for a celebration of life. We said to get everybody's schedules aligned to go have a meeting when they had a very thorough one. We said, can they just please meet with the engineer? He's the resident expert and all of this. He could answer any question they had. And then we said, if he needs to come and talk to us, we were there working every single day if he wanted to drop by, but we didn't schedule a formal review that the town did with them and with their engineer.
Yeah, I went and asked Chris to come, let's have a meeting. He said no. I said, you don't want to come out and talk? He said, no.
His dog had died that day.
And I said, okay, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
And so he said he didn't want to talk.
Okay. So at that point, do they have any objections?
No, they didn't have any.
No, And that's when Dennis ended up talking to the other Chris, because he did come out. And that's when we said, look, your fence is encroached 6 inches, a third of it is on our property. And he was like, and he was very nice. He said, so sorry. And we said, we're not going to ask you to move it. We know that costs money and we think we can work around it for now. And that's what we've done.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions from the board for the applicant? At this time, I will now have a request for public comment. Is there any member of the public who wants to comment?
Do you, Chair Mull, want to split it in public comment for and public comment against?
I don't see a need to. I don't know. How do your other members feel?
I think it makes more sense to split it from what I've seen on the BOT meetings. It makes it easier to sort out.
Okay. Recommend the fors or the againsts? First,
You want to start with your choice.
let's go with the against. Anyone from the public who want us to speak against this variance? Online or in real time? Going once, going twice. Anyone from the public want to speak in support of variance?
I'd like to. My name's Ann Baldwin. I have a house up on the Switzerland Trail, so I'm a little bit outside of the city limits. So I don't know if my comment makes a difference or not, but I just wanted to say that I've watched this place go up and I thought they did such a tasteful job. And I've sat in that bar and thought that the fence as it is quite nice, even for a person sitting in the bar. So I just wanted to express support for the fence variances. It seems to me that these are kind of petty concerns, and just want to voice my support for the Little Bear property and the beauty and care that they've taken to make this a nice addition to the town.
Thanks, Ann.
And I have driven that road too, and I can't say that I see this fence on the other side being a problem either. So I just want to express my support.
Thanks for your input.
Okay.
Anyone else that wants to put comment in support of variances? Please state your name and address. For the record.
Hi, is it me?
Kathleen Chabai is here right now at the podium.
Great.
Kathleen Chipai, 30-year resident, 18-year, 19-year business owner. I'm here because as a business owner, I have to take an oath to have fully read, understand, and comply with the code. And people know that I abide by my oath, that I'm well rehearsed in the code. And I had a number of people come ask me what I thought of this, so that's how I got involved. Chris Klein was one of the people that asked me. I've known him and spoke on behalf of his business every time something's come up. I just met Dennis and Renee. After talking to Chris Klein and Dennis and reviewing the code in the packet, I don't believe the BZA should be involved in this issue. That, in my opinion, shouldn't even be an issue because there is no zoning adjustment or variance necessary. The plain language of the code stands, and the admin's conclusion in the packet was the fences should remain. But since the town admin wrongfully, in my opinion, told Dennis and Renee they needed a variance and put this in front of the BZA, I don't think the BZA should be considering doing anything other than sending this back to the town administrator, who herself took an oath to uphold the code and gave guidance included in the packet to Dennis and Renee in 2021. If the BZA chooses to make any other judgment, then sending it back to the admin, then the BZA is also under oath to uphold the NMC. The packet says the town advised Dennis and Renee that they could build a fence up to 7 feet in 2021 from the IBC, International Building Code. However, per the NMC 1689B, which I don't understand why applies, Dennis, Renee, and Knotted Root can all have fences up to 8 feet tall, quote, to screen off legally existing uses involving the outside storage of machinery, equipment, material, and automobiles. This language allows anyone to screen off either their machinery or their neighbor's machinery and everything else listed, equipment. Since none of the fencing is over 8 feet tall, I don't understand any confusion surrounding the original grade language in NMC 1689G, because the east fence is still under 8 feet tall, so in compliance with the code and lawful, even when measured from the base of the concrete water drainage barrier that the town required Dennis and Renee to install to protect the Knotted Root property from water, which looks like the original grade, but that neither town nor anyone can confirm. I'm disturbed that the town administrator Fisher sent this to the BZA or considered anything other than to have told the people complaining that Dennis and Renee have fences compliant with the NMC and their complaints are invalid. I'm also extremely disturbed that the town attorney Jen Madsen told Dennis and Renee that Knotted Root could put up an 8-foot fence as a screen, but Dennis and Renee could not. This is still the United States of America, and there is constitutional equal treatment under the law. When I read the letters against the fences included in the packet, I was concerned when I read that the west patio fences are creating a visual barrier leading to the safety problems that enter the highway. I have driven over there. I'm in a Subaru Impreza, so I'm extremely low to the ground, and I confirm that that information was inaccurate. When you are at the stop sign on 3rd, you can clearly see beyond the patio fences, and you are further east of the fences. If the complainers are truly having problems visually when entering the peak-to-peak from 3rd, they must be suffering from some other impairments that make me nervous to be on the roadways with them, and I hope they consider turning in their driver's licenses. When it comes to the complaints about a loss of a mountain view from the Knotted Root patio, I don't agree there was much of a mountain view when the buildings were not there, more like a highway firehouse view. The buildings are lawful, and it sure looks like the fences block the view directly into the buildings. And I'd like to say I'm really disturbed, and I want to thank for the excellent presentation, but I'm disturbed that anyone is having to waste their time on any of this. Thank you.
Thanks, Kathleen.
Any other, looks like we do.
Jesse, you want to say something?
Yeah, thanks, guys. I'm just speaking as a citizen and a contractor who fulfilled the grading for Dennis and Ellen, and I also just want to speak to their character. I've lived here in Nederland for 12 years, and I've just really been impressed with.
Hello, Jesse.
Yeah.
State your name and address for the record.
My name is Jesse
Apparently,
Sievers.
I didn't know this, but there's a timer.
Yeah, Jesse Sievers, 178 West 4th Street, Nederland, Colorado.
Okay,
and
thanks.
I own and operate an excavation and earthworking business here, and I did all of the site development work for Dennis and Ellen, from the time of demolishing the old preschool to the final grading. And it was a long and difficult project for the drainage and the management of the water there. And I know that Dennis and Ellen and I watched them make many efforts to have good relations with the neighbors, which I was always very impressed with. And I also watched them struggle to meet the requirements and the demands of the PUD. And they did a remarkable job and demonstrated an amazing resilience and patience and flexibility to do everything they could to please the neighbors. They're doing a high density housing development in our town, where that is one of the spoken goals of our planning process over the years. And it's one of the priorities of our town to develop affordable housing, and that they're doing just that. And I would love, I feel that they've gotten a lot of really great support from myself and all the letters of support that we see here. And I encourage the BZA to vote in favor of this and of their variance request. And, those are residences, and there was issues with putting a bar right next to a preschool when that bar first came into town. And there's still going to be kids there. Those kids will be playing out front at times. And then there's large events where there's people drinking, listening to music. And I think it's really important that we allow them to have the privacy that they have. They lived up to the grading and drainage plan that was given to them, and they have to build their fence on their property, and their property is been adjusted, their grade there. And I just want to encourage the BZA to support and vote in favor of Dennis and Ellen and their variance request. And that's all I got to say.
Thanks, Jesse.
Ron Mitchell, 3A Jackson. There are many anomalies in our codes. There's many contradictions. There's many things that are left up in the air, and there's things that are just patently wrong. There's no reason I can find in this ordinance why you should measure from the previous grade, particularly when someone's required to change the grade. So that's something that the code did not anticipate. That's something, in all fairness, should be considered heavily in your decision. So I implore you to accept this variance. I think it's reasonable. I think it would be proper. And I think I second what Jesse Severs had to say. These folks have tried harder than most anybody I've seen to actually get the job done and done right. The entire business community is watching what you do here. They're looking to see whether or not they consider what you do is fair or not. Thank you.
Thanks, Ron.
Are there any more comments from the public? Oh, I didn't read my whole thing here. Public comments are now closed. This is be the time for the board to have discussion and deliberation. Let me start with a couple things. First, I think we will probably need 2 votes, one for the west fence and one for the east fence. So it's bananas and apples. It's not, even though they're both fences and they're both height variances, they are a little bit different issues. And we can do that. I've done on the board before, we've done where there's different issues and then we split them all up. And that's, I'll say more later, but other deliberations, comments from the board?
Are we going to go through?
Yeah, we will. Yeah. We'll go through all 5 criteria.
I mean, I just have a comment, I guess, generally that, this is a tough issue. I really want to thank Ellen and Dennis for all of their work leading up to tonight. And I was one of the neighbors that asked them to lower the proposed height of their building. And it appears that they've done that. And I agree with what everyone says. They seem to be doing a great job with a lot of things over there. And privacy is important to me. I just built a 6-foot privacy fence around my property as well. And so I totally understand it. You know, I have compassion for both sides here. I think, we'll get into the criteria, but I was told going into this board that the criteria is really what we judge our decisions on. So look forward to the discussion around that.
Anyone else? I'll add that I drive by there on the highway both ways. And obviously from the highway, the fence isn't going to make a difference in terms of, I've also driven out 3rd Street. And, I can see well enough to get my license, but I have trouble seeing the screens up there. But I don't think I would have trouble seeing the cars coming out of 3rd Street. At least not to the right, to the north, which is where the fence is. I do have trouble twisting my neck around because I'm 68 years old, right? Seeing the cars coming from the other direction, but that's not an issue with this fence. I also want to mention that the Board of Trustees and the board and the Planning Commission, all those people will have a lot of decisions to make that are more subjective. And this board is kind of a concrete thinkers board, which is why I'm on it. And to me, if there's a fence and the fence isn't any wider than 6 inches, you probably can't have it on a slope. Meaning that it's going to be on either side of the fence about the same height if you're right at the fence. So I don't know about, measuring it from the not a root side, and if it's really as low as or that much different than it was measured from the other side. So I think, you have to have the height as the fence itself sits, and the ground drops a bunch, but that's not the fence, that's the ground. Plus they've had to do the berm because of the drainage. Now, we're not supposed to be fair. We're just supposed to be concrete. Although, if you ask me, I've sat outside and had a beverage in this town, and I'll tell you, there's a lot of times where a fence to the west would have really been nicer to keep the wind out of my face and from blowing my drink down. But that's just me. Plus, if you're sitting out there drinking, do you want to be looking at other people's kids and people coming home from work, or you want to just sit there and enjoy the people you're drinking with? So it'd be an improvement to the people at Knotted Root to have a higher fence. Maybe. And as an aside, the Knotted Root didn't want the water, but sometime in my lifetime, water is going to become the next oil. You're going to want water, and if you can get any kind of water and sell it, you're going to be rich. Let's go through the criteria.
Chair Mullet, can you clarify, are you going to start with one side of the fence as you go through each criteria?
Yeah, let's do the west side. So we're going to go from 7 feet to, no, we're going to go from 6 feet to 7 feet. Okay. So criteria A is that there are unique physical circumstances or conditions such as irregularity, narrowness, shallowness or size of the lot, or exceptional topographical or other physical conditions peculiar to the affected property. This says at the west side, there's no physical conditions on that side of the property. The request to increase to 7 feet is to block out the roadway better. So really, kind of doesn't meet the criteria. That would make it peculiar. What do you guys think? It's page 4 or 5 of the.
Four. That was my understanding as well.
Criteria B, that because of such physical circumstances or conditions, the property cannot be reasonably developed in conformity with the provisions of the chapter. So the provisions of the chapter, Miranda, are that the fence limit is 6 feet?
Correct.
Yeah. So it doesn't, in terms of not being applicable, it's.
So that's where my argument is that this property is developed, that the fence itself is not a part of the
Oh,
development. That is, of course, like a supplemental feature.
okay.
But it's not the development of the lot itself.
Any other comments, observations? Criteria C, that such unnecessary hardship has not been created by the applicant. West fence not applicable, but didn't you guys get the town say to build, you can build up to 7 feet?
So that
So,
was guidance provided, unfortunately inaccurately,
Right.
based on international building code when town code limits 6 feet.
okay, but that was not created by the applicant.
Well, so currently as the fence stands, it's at 6 feet. So they're in compliance with code. They're looking to go to 7 feet.
Right, but they were told they could go to 7 feet. Is that right with the West fence?
Right, but ultimately the code is going to be what matters here. You know, I do recognize what was shared with them, but we're going to adhere to Netherlands municipal code because municipal code can be more restrictive than the international building code.
Criteria D, that the variance, if granted, will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood or district in which the property is located, nor substantially or permanently impair the appropriate use or development of the adjacent property. Basically, will it change the character of the neighborhood or impair it?
No.
And speaking as a neighbor in the neighborhood, it definitely improved it.
Okay, yeah, I would say on the west side, it would, and it also would, when I drive by there, I want to be looking at cars, not at like people sunning themselves in the yard or something. So they would be, it would help to have less distraction for motorists, but that doesn't change the neighborhood.
It upgraded it.
Upgraded it, okay. Criteria E, that the variance if granted is the minimum variance that will afford relief and is the least modification possible of this chapter's provision which are in question.
Yeah, I think on this one, they've already made a compromise. They were told they could go higher. They limited themselves to where they're at. They could have come in rightfully in my mind and said, I want to go with what the town told me I can do, but they didn't. They're reasonable. They've been reasonable people all the way through this. So I don't think we have a problem there.
Yeah, I mean, we've had a lot of variances over the years, and sometimes we adjust that. Somebody wants a 5-foot setback, and we give them 4 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
That sort of thing. In the case of this, that picture that showed the truck and the highway, clearly that extra foot would be a lot more privacy for the people in the property.
I think it would make a difference. Yeah, aesthetically, it would make a difference in the quality of life from the other side of the fence. but that's not what we're adjudicating. But I think that I believe they're entitled to it based on reliance they took from somebody in authority who told them what their rights or what they were within their rights to do.
Well, when we asked about if the minimum variance will afford relief and the least modification possible, that extra foot goes, it makes the difference. Yeah. Board members, any more discussion before we do a vote on the west fence?
I think you might be good to go.
Should we say that we'll have a vote to approve or a variance to go from 6 to 7 feet for the west fence at?
Does that do it, Miranda? Does that give you what you need?
So I think though, one of the challenges that is I'm not sure that the BZA has determined that the applicant meets all the criteria. So I think further discussion is needed. If you're leaning towards wanting to recommend approval, I think you have to have further discussion about A and B, it sounds like.
Correct. Or we could just.
And then your motion you would make tonight is to move to approve the town attorney, or to direct the town attorney to draft a resolution approving the variance.
Okay.
I move to authorize the town attorney to draft a variance. Is that how I have to say it, Miranda?
I mean, I guess I'm questioning if further deliberation is needed. And that's for you all to decide. I don't.
So personally, I'm open to this idea of taking it out of the BZA's hands. I don't even know if that's an option. I'm okay with that. But if I was told when I joined this board that we have to follow these instructions that say that variances can be allowed, provided that the board finds that all of the following criteria have been satisfied. And I understand B is not applicable. I'll honestly say I disagree with that. But I don't think it matters because I think A pretty clearly is not satisfied. That's where I'm at.
Yes, I have to go with that. A would stand in the way of us being able to approve this. And that's the concrete thinker in me. It's not the want to be fair, not the want to be fair.
Why does A stand in the way?
What's that?
Why does that A stand in the way?
Why does A stand in the way?
Because there's unique physical circumstances or conditions such as irregular narrowness, shallowness of the lot, or size of the lot, or exceptional topographical or other physical conditions peculiar to the affected property that would make a 7-foot fence a big. This 6-foot fence wouldn't work. I suppose you could say that the property sits low and the highway sits high. And you get to see the highway if you don't have a 7-foot fence. But I don't know if that's particularly unique. It's not an irregularity or a narrowness or shallowness of the size of the lot. And they probably put the fence within the setbacks. Otherwise, you could put the fence higher, closer to the highway, and then it would have been automatically higher.
Yeah, that's the way I'm reading it.
Okay.
If you're wanting to grant the variance for this fence and you're concerned about the paragraph A, I do think that there is legal argument based on the photos and the evidence that was presented that there is an exceptional topographical or other physical conditions that are peculiar to the property. I mean, the grade of the roadway in relationship to the property, it's much higher. And so I think that would support meeting that criteria if you're looking to grant the variance.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. And there's nothing they can do about the grade of that highway. That's the grade of the highway. And so, yeah, I agree with your read on this one, Attorney Madsen.
Well, it's good to have some legal clarification. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Attorney Mattson, and again, I'm open to being not applicable, but can you expand, can you offer your thoughts on that?
Well, yes. For one, I think you can interpret this criteria related to the overall goal of the BZA. And paragraph A, for one, I believe it says you hear and decide applications for variances where there are practical difficulties or unnecessary hardships in the way of carrying out the strict letter of the chapter. So your goal is really, you have the power to vary or modify the regulations of the code, including the fence heights. And so in reading that overall power and authority that you have, I think that should be considered when you interpret the criteria. And so if the property can be developed in terms of building structures, I think one thing you could argue in reading criteria B, when you read property cannot reasonably be developed, is we could say construct the fence in conformity with the provisions of the chapter because of the physical circumstances. So in other words, to say it in a different way, because that was kind of a mouthful, is that because of the roadway on that west side of the property, that constructing the fence in a 6 feet high height is a hardship to the property owner. Or the other thing I think you can say is that it's not applicable, and a fence variance is going to be different from a setback variance. And your job is to interpret these criteria so that you're carrying out your duties and responsibilities as the BZA.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more input? Tom, did you have a motion still? Did you hear me?
Tom, I think you're muted.
Not anymore, I'm not. Yeah, I would, my motion stands. I would move to authorize Attorney Madsen to issue whatever documentation needs to be to allow a 7-foot fence on the west side.
So can I just clean up that motion a little bit? Mayor Pro Tem Hold, it would be to direct Attorney Madsen to draft a resolution approving the variance for the west fence that would be brought back to the board on 11/21.
Well put. That's exactly what I meant to say.
I second that.
Okay.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Hold,
Yes.
Member McIlvaine,
Yes.
Member Bliss,
No.
Member Seebeck,
No.
Chair Mole.
Yes,
Motion passes.
3-2.
You have to have all 5 or 4?
You have to have 4.
Oh, yeah.
So the measure does not pass.
Motion fails.
So actually, in something like this, you can't just denial of a motion to approve. Well, let me look at the code, but typically you have to have a motion to deny a request for variance.
Oh.
Wouldn't that
With
just-
4 voting
me-
for the denial?
Well, no, that doesn't make any sense.
That would just stagnate us.
Okay. Yeah, I guess so then it is denied.
So let's go to the next fence. That would be the east fence. And the variance would be go from the present height of 5'4" to 6 feet.
I believe the variance was to keep the fence height as it is and not have to reduce that height, correct?
Correct, yeah, the applicants had discussed going to 6 feet, but it sounds like they're comfortable keeping the fence at the height it is, and that's what they're seeking the variance for. So not have to reduce it due to the height on the knotted root side.
Let's look at criteria. Criteria A, that their unique physical circumstances or conditions such as irregularity, narrowness, shallowness, or size of the lot, or exceptional topographical or other physical conditions peculiar to the affected property. Town staff has noted that due to the difference in grade, if the fence were to be shortened on the knotted root side, it would no longer serve as a privacy screen for Little Bear Village residents. Little Bear Village increased the grade of their property in order to comply with the drainage. I would say it meets criteria A because they had to do that. Change the grade, and because I think fences, how wide is this fence?
It's a 6.
Yeah, 6 inches. So is it, yeah. If it, yeah, I'd say I'm okay with A. Any comments from you guys?
I would tend to agree that the fence between Little Bear and Knotted Root is fine as it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree that it meets criteria.
Okay.
I concur.
Can we go ahead and vote then on
We
this?
got a BC.
Need a motion.
We got to do B, C, D, and E. Tom, any comment from you on A?
No.
Criteria B, that because of such physical circumstances or conditions, the property cannot reasonably be developed in conformity with the provisions of the chapter. We've kind of talked about that along with the west fence. I'd say the east fence has got a lot more issue. I mean, there's a lot more applicability than the west fence.
Explain.
Well, just because they had to build a berm and they had
Yeah.
all this other stuff, and there was drainage problems. There was the neighbors that didn't want the water and all that sort of thing. And so
Got it.
there
Okay.
are physical circumstances, conditions, not to mention. Well, I'll get to that in C. C is such unnecessary hardship has not been created by the applicant. So we do have, the town staff do not have documentation regarding the grade prior to the development of the Little Bear drainage plan or Knotted Roots outdoor patio. Therefore, the town cannot comment on whether this hardship was created by the applicant. Per Knotted Root, they never adjusted their grade when developing their outdoor patio space, and that the patio is at the original grade level, if not slightly higher, as anything lower would have created additional flooding problems. So I don't think the hardship was created by the applicant. They had a lot of hardship placed upon them with the whole having to adjust the grade.
Agreed.
I would agree as well. I mean, they had, at Knotted Roots request, they fixed their drainage problem, which means they had to raise the grade there. They were also, given advice. They're not experts on code. They were given advice by the town that they could build a fence at a certain height. And it turns out that was not the case. I think they've reasonably come to a different height, which I think is entirely acceptable. And it's a good compromise.
I also think that when it comes right down to the view that Knotted Root has, you're either looking at a fence or you're looking at the back of an apartment. So it's not like their view is really that affected one way or the other.
Right. That would be more along with D. That the variance if granted will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood or district in which the property is located, nor substantially or permanently impair the appropriate use or development of adjacent property. And having the fence taller there isn't gonna, I don't think it's gonna impair the Knotted Root.
Well, and again, they're not looking to raise the fence. They're looking to
Right.
keep the fence the
Keep the
same
fence,
height and
yeah.
not be forced to reduce the height of the fence.
And then didn't we hear that there was another neighbor that was told they could have a 7-foot fence, the guys to the south?
So I cannot comment on that, but that is what Little Bear Village, the applicants have
Oh,
noted.
okay. Yeah. Any more comments on C on D, on C or D? On E, that the variance if granted is the minimum variance that will afford relief and is the least modification possible of this chapter's provision which are in question. So basically, if they don't get the variance, they have to lower the fence.
That's my understanding.
And that would be, well, and not, in a variety of ways, it would impact the Little Bear Village people.
I agree that E is met. I did not speak up at B, but I think I'm in the minority here, but, I think I must be a bit of an absolutist here, but I'm not sure that it meets criteria B personally, and it makes me uncomfortable to say that it's not applicable. And I agree with, I think Miranda and Attorney Mattson, what they say makes sense. What makes me uncomfortable is reading the meeting minutes from May when criteria B is listed as a reason to deny a variance. I know we don't need to base current decisions on past decisions. Just for my own comfort and the way the code is written, I don't believe that criteria B is met, but I understand and appreciate other viewpoints.
Any other comments on E or A, B, C, D, E from other board members? Is there, someone want to make a motion?
I'm not sure on the wording on this one, but I motion to present to Attorney Mattson for approval the
That you direct Attorney Madsen to draft the resolution approving the variance for the east fence.
what Miranda said so eloquently. Thank you very much.
Second.
What was that?
That was Tom.
Tom.
Oh, Tom seconds, okay.
Yeah.
Member Bliss,
No.
Member McLean,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Hold,
Yes.
Chair Mole,
Yes,
Member Seebeck.
Yes.
This one passes.
this is 4-1, yeah.
Correct.
Passes. All right, so you guys got one variance. We've heard comments about whether you really needed a variance or not, but I'll let you guys sort that out.
Thank you.
Miranda will explain to you what next
So
happens.
there will be a resolution that goes before the BZA on November 21st. At that time, you've already approved it, but you'll make an official approval of the resolution.
On the 21st, Mark, I will be available to be there if that's helpful.
Okay, great.
I will not be here that week.
Okay.
So alternates will need to step in.
I'll be
We'll
here.
need both alternates.
I mean, I might be here, but I don't know yet.
Okay, well, depending on what Mark does, we may need both alternates present,
Okay.
and Ryan will ideally no longer be an alternate.
Yep, I'll be available that day.
Monday, the 21st at 7 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
And at that a meeting, I can put on the agenda the appointment of a vice chair.
Okay.
Do we need to decide now who's going to chair that?
I think it's going to be dependent on, do you want to talk about that now, Chair Mole? Since
Sure.
you're an unknown?
Since, yeah. I mean, we have what we call other business, and that could be other business.
Correct.
If they're, well, I mean, if I'm here, I can chair. If I am not here, we don't have a vice chair.
Sounds like maybe Mayor Pro Tem Mahold is offering, if I'm hearing that correctly.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that he can be the vice chair, but that would be
I
going,
don't know if you need a motion. I think a nod of 4 would probably be fine.
what now?
A nod of 4.
Okay.
Nodding, yes.
Nodding,
Yes.
yes.
A lot of nods in the
A lot
room,
of
Tom.
nods.
Okay.
Does that mean for that meeting that, or that's,
That for that meeting, he would chair if you were not present.
but now he's now vice chair.
No, he's not vice chair.
So we need to.
We will determine vice chair at the meeting on the 21st.
Okay. Any other business? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
I think we all.
Okay. Member Seebeck,
Yes.
Chair Mole,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mahold,
Yes.
Member McIlvaine,
Yes.
Member Bliss.
Yes.
It's adjourned.
Meeting is adjourned at 8:50 PM.